Good day, everyone. They call me Dave, and welcome back to Train Sim World beta testing. I actually recorded this last night, but I was too tired to edit it and upload it before going to bed. So this is from the patch notes. We are extending the beta period by 2 days, and the beta will now end on 21st December. So it says we have identified and provided a fix for the Vico Dynamics DLL crash. This fix will improve compatibility with older CPUs. If you are using an older CPU, you should no longer need to remove this file for the game to work. If you get a fatal error crash after the update, however, you should remove this file again. Now, this fatal error crash did not affect my system, so the next item on the list of the patch notes is the issue where the camera gets sucked into the rail vehicles and couplers and requires resetting with Control 0 has been fixed. And as you can see, I am flying and zooming and dive bombing this coal car, which the coal cars were notorious for sucking your camera, and it does not seem to be getting trapped. So I do believe that they have fixed that issue. Let's bring this train to a stop and we'll do some further testing to really see what's going on here. And some people complain the brakes work too well. Okay, there we go. So, especially I wanted to test the coupler. You basically just fly around or over, under, around, and through. You can zoom right in on it. You can smash your camera directly onto the coupler, and you do not get trapped in the vehicle. Basically, it looks like they solved the problem by allowing the external camera to obey some sort of collision mesh with the rail vehicles. You can fly directly into the side of the coal car and it just bounces. You can go under the coupler, you can look underneath, you can look under the ground, but you do not get stuck. You do not get stuck. You can actually fly through the cross beams inside the coal hopper now without getting stuck and fly right out. No need to press Control 0 to reset your camera, unless you just want to reset it to the standard, starting position. You can even zoom right into these fans. And you do not get stuck. You cannot penetrate the loco with the external camera anymore. You can even ride along the front deck there and pretend you're holding onto the handlebars as the conductor spotting for the engineer. However, I was not satisfied. I was sure to find a way to stick the camera again. The camera would become stick. So here I am testing out the different camera views. This is camera 8, the free camera view. Alright, so I've positioned this other locomotive up there, and we're going to drive this locomotive up right next to it, adjacent to it, and parallel on the neighboring track. And what I discovered, actually quite by accident, don't ask me how, but there is one more situation, despite the new fix, where a camera can become stuck in another locomotive. Watch and learn as we park right next to this other locomotive. Bringing it to a halt. Now, when I hit camera 8, the free camera, I'm actually stuck to the side of the other locomotive, the opposite side, and I can't get out. And in this case, even Control 0 does not help, because for some reason, there it is. I hit Control 0 and it just restuck me to the same spot. I can return to camera 1, and there's an even more curious circumstance with this neighboring loco on an adjacent track camera bug. If the two locomotives are kind of nose to nose, like catty corner, just like this, and you hit free camera number 8, okay, that's not quite positioned right. I'm still stuck to the side of the opposite locomotive. I can move it around now, but I can't escape the other locomotive. I'm not stuck inside it anymore like before. Okay, there I got out of it in that case. But hitting Control 0 doesn't get you out from that area. It just puts you right back in it. So if you position the two locomotives just right, yep, right about just opposite each other, nose to nose on adjacent tracks. Okay, let's bring it to a stop. This should be just about right. If I hit the free camera with the 8 key, I do now become stuck inside the other locomotive. And there's no escaping. Control 0 does not get you out. It just, because this apparently is the home position for the number 8 camera when you are nose to nose adjacent to another locomotive. I can't even really move it. I can look around, but I can't really move around. It looks like I'm kind of stuck in the hood. Yeah, so they fixed a major issue with stuck cameras. However, I managed to find another case where you could stick a camera. There you go, friends. You saw it here. And as soon as, okay, so while I was stuck inside there, I had the other locomotive start backing up. And as soon as it gets a certain distance away, I don't know exactly what that distance is, if you hit Control 0, then your number 8 camera, frees itself from the opposite locomotive. So there you go. That's an interesting bug. I'm not sure how often people would encounter that. Maybe if you're switching a lot in the yard. But that's a new way that you can get the camera stuck. Or maybe it was always there and it just wasn't addressed by the other fix with the whole getting sucked into the cars. Now the next item on the patch notes says, we have identified and fixed the major cause of the crash that occurs when entering the 2D map. And pressing 9 to bring the map up should now crash less often. We are not confident we have isolated all causes, but this seems to be the more prevalent one. Now, personally, I never actually experienced the game crashing from when I hit 9 to bring up the 2D map. Then again, I don't bring it up that often, so I don't know. Maybe I was just lucky. So it says also, the last point is that we have identified and fixed the cause of rail vehicles falling through the ground. Now what I'm about to do here is, normally if you went up to these trains and uncoupled that, then went up and sat in the engineer's chair, first of all 4 of these engines would immediately be considered derailed, even if they appeared to still be on the rails. Okay, so I've sat in the engineer's seat after having first uncoupled the cars. Normally that's a no-no, and it's probably still best practice to always go sit in the engineer's seat first before you do anything else to a train. I'm able to drive it, so that means this proves that it's not derailed. Although I think the rear locomotives have their brakes on or something, I don't know. This whole consist here with the 4 locomotives, I've never been able to get it to work properly. I don't know how you are supposed to set up your locos for multiple unit operations. I've gone into the scenario in the timetable mode, and rather than driving away immediately, I've gone back to the second locomotive to see how it was set up, and I've tried to replicate that out here in the yard, and it just never seems to work the same way. I don't know why. Also, it doesn't seem like the rear locomotives are ever throttling or responding to throttle. It's only the front loco that's actually providing power. Maybe that's because this is still the beta. I don't know. I haven't seen instructions. So normally, before this falling to the ground fix, if I go back here and I climb up on the ladder of these cars that I had disconnected before sitting into the engineer's seat, you would immediately be sucked through the surface of the terrain and be dangling beneath, looking up, as there is no escape, no return home. So now I can successfully climb up the ladder and the rail car does not fall through the terrain. So that one is fixed. Now, a few days ago, or a couple days ago, I saw another video on YouTube from a Twitch streamer, and forgive me, I forget the name right off the top of my head. I watched it and watched a bunch of other stuff, so I don't remember. Anyway, he had taken one of these locomotives, or a locomotive, hooked it up to a coal car, and driven both the locomotive and the coal car onto the turntable. At which point, when he attempted to move the turntable, both the locomotive and the coal hopper promptly derailed, and you could walk through them just like you can with derailed vehicles in Train Sim World. Of course, he decided to step it up a notch and go grab another locomotive and drive through the first locomotive and attempt to drive through the coal hopper, at which point hilarity ensued. So, naturally, I decided to try to do the same thing, only now I have the Train Sim World Beta Public 10, and my theory is that the rail car derailing on the turntable must have been related somehow to the same thing that allowed trains to fall through the ground. Just back it up slowly. Now, in the other video, he was still on beta 9, and this part goes the same. Oh, stopped a little short there. That is one thing I'd like to mention while I'm here, is the independent brake on the train, on the locomotive itself. When you're using the keyboard controls, it's really difficult to control it. The independent, if you just tap increase on the independent brake, it's a random number. I could suddenly be applying 10%, 15%. Sometimes I just give it a little tap and my braking is at 25%. And I tap it to decrease it, and it might not go all the way down. It might go down to 6% or something like that. So when you're using the keyboard controls for the independent brake on the locomotive, you get kind of random results with exactly what number. I think it would be better if from the keyboard, if you're going to use keyboard controls on independent brake, that maybe it be increased by step if you just are tapping the key. So if you tap it once, maybe it's 10%, tap it again, then it's 20%, tap it again, 30%, so forth. I don't know. It should be a little more predictable as to if I give it a short tap to increase on the keyboard, I shouldn't have to guess whether I'm going to be 12% or 25%. Okay, so I've moved the turntable with a locomotive and a coal hopper on it, and it does not appear that the train has derailed. In fact, no, it still looks like it's on the rails. Yes, I do believe that my theory is that the train derailing when you have more than one car on the turntable, somehow it must have been related to the falling through the ground glitch. Or maybe that's another thing they fixed and they just didn't mention it in the patch notes, I don't know. But definitely I am not getting the same result as that other YouTuber I saw. My train is not derailing when I have a coal car and a locomotive on the turntable and I move it. So that glitch has been fixed as well, whether it was mentioned in the patch notes or not. I couldn't get the train to derail from moving the turntable in this manner. Of course, the final proof that you have not derailed your train is to actually move it. So here we are backing up a little bit. I've moved the locomotive and the coal car back just a little bit. The rear truck of the coal hopper is now off of the turntable entirely. Now, of course, if I get out and I move the turntable right now, some type of hilarity will ensue. The coal car, at the very least, will surely derail. But I'm not really going to do that right now. This video has gone on long enough. I've reported the things that I want to report. The bugs that were claimed to have been fixed appear to have been fixed, at least the ones that I experienced. And I even discovered a new bug, a new way to trap your camera. Only this time you trap it in another locomotive on an adjacent track. That was a good find and great fun. So really, that's about it. Until next time, goodbye for now.